we have a middle class in this country that doesn't exist anymore. 57% of Americans now could not put their hand on $1,000 in an emergency. 1/4 of Americans are now going to bed hungry. So we have a crisis here in this country.
Right now, we need to build more homes. We, of course, need to fulfill the immigration agenda.
Can you explain what that means? Because that's also about private equity firms buying up homes instead of them being available.
1 out of 4 of all home purchases in the last year were out of these firms like BlackRock that come in, and they are actually bidding out first-time home buyers and younger Americans that want to be able to have their slice of the American dream.
And a kid and young people know about this.
They know about it and they talk about it. In fact, when I do my campus tours, time after time they say, Charlie, when are we going to stop BlackRock from being able to come in and purchase homes in our communities? You know, I'm from Arizona. I think it's wrong that a first-time home buyer in Chandler or Mesa or Gilbert that's just scrapping together enough money that they can has to compete against a $10 trillion private equity fund. And so I think these are some prudent decisions that we can make. We need to increase the supply. President Trump is exactly right about lowering interest rates. That's going to unleash a lot of capital and have a higher incentive to build homes.
So the silver lining to it, of course, is that these young people do not trust the government to solve their problems.
That's right.
Okay.
The reason people want to go back to the 70s is in the 70s, the largest share of our GDP was in the middle class. And that was not separate from the fact that 25% of our economy was in manufacturing.
Right, the largest share of our GDP
was in the middle class, the biggest chunk, the middle class,
most
people
of
who
what
are
was
middle
produced
income.
came from the middle, and now it comes from what? The rich.
Now, the top 20% controls over 50% of the GDP. Our economy was an upward funnel of wealth, and the largest share, which used to be in manufacturing, which gave a lot of working class people a middle class standard of living, now the largest share is in real estate and finance, meaning that asset-rich Americans are controlling over 50% of the GDP, and they have left the working class out of all of that prosperity that was generated. That manufacturing is still being done. It's just being done in other countries. It is still
for wages we will not work for.
That's exactly right. You're right, Bill. That's what the tariffs are for. They are to make American workers more competitive in the global market. Why are we accepting that there should be a race to the bottom? You know, China, what is its competitive advantage over us? It's that it pays slave wages. Why should we accept that? They're still manufacturing our PPE, our pharmaceuticals, our cars. They're making all that stuff. Trump says there are 5 industries that we cannot have any kind of national security without having a stake in them. Pharmaceuticals, lumber, steel, aluminum, and I forget what the 5th one was. But these are really important that we have a stake in the manufacturing of the things that we need as a nation so that when China decides that it wants to go to war against us, we're not relying on them for steel and aluminum in order to fight them.
Okay, well, at least that's an answer.
I don't think the middle class exists anymore. Back in 1950, the median income was $3,300 per year. It sounds really low until you realize that the median home price back then was about $7,500. So it would take you 2 years of your wages to buy a home. These days, the median income is $70,000 and the median house is $430,000. That's like 6.5 years of wages. Up. That is messed up. And the worst thing is that to be middle class in America these days, you need to make about $175,000 per year. So I don't think the middle class exists anymore. I think it's slowly becoming you either have money or you don't.
Sorry, if you only want to work 4 hours, it's going to be harder for you to get a house. We busted our behinds. We had to bust our behinds.
Whoopee, here is the problem millennials are facing today. If you look from 1980 all the way to 2019, the average home prices, this column is what's important. This was the income needed to qualify for the average home. Every year, even before the 80s, for the past 50 years, the median household income was more than what you needed to qualify until 2023, where the income needed to qualify is more than the median household income. And another thing you have to look at is this column over here, which is rent. You could rent for just 14% of your income, 17% of your income, 16% of your income. But look when millennials entered the chat, 25%, 25%, 30%. This is when rent prices started to go up. Now, millennials could have bought here, but what people forget, in 2010, the youngest millennial was 14 years old. So we're being forced to spend 30% of our money on rent as a family. where most people renting are probably single because they haven't built a family yet, and they're spending 40% of their income on rent. So everyone wants to talk about inflation and that's always been the same up and down. No, it is a supply and demand issue with the housing market that's driving the prices up, plus the interest rates is making, with housing tax and student loans, 70% of millennial and Gen Z's income has gone to just those three things. Your college back in the 80s and 90s was $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for a 4-year college. It is $40,000 now.
And the easiest thing for a politician to do is to appeal to our hatred and our bigotry and our fear. The Democratic Party has become the party of war. It's become the party of censorship. It's become the party of pharmaceutical companies, of the neocons, this very aggressive, belligerent foreign policy, the forever wars, and this really bizarre turning our backs on the American middle class, which is the only thing that sustains democracy. If you don't have a middle class, any political scholar or political scientist will tell you, if you have large aggregations of wealth at the top and widespread poverty below, that formulation is too unstable to support democracy. The middle class has just been wiped out in this country, and nobody's talking about it.
We bought our house for $90,000 back in '85, just sold it for $950K. And man, that's just our house. I mean, you kids just don't want to work for things anymore. I used to work 45-hour weeks every week. Eventually, I saved up enough to put towards a house, a car, so on and so forth. Now I'm set for life. But you have to work for it. And y'all don't want to do that. Y'all wouldn't have made it back in my day.
They like to make their kids feel guilty. They like to go, you could never afford it. They like to tell you how cheap the house was when they bought it. And then this is every Thanksgiving or Christmas, somebody will go, pick this up for $200,000. Now it's worth $1.8 million. And then it's their millennial kids are sitting there saddled with student loan debt. And the boomers it's their last fuck you before they leave the planet.
Yeah.
They're a spiteful generation of monsters. I respect it. But their last fuck you before they leave the planet is, instead of selling their houses for, I don't know, a $900,000 profit, they just won't put them on the market. Some boomers, which is hilarious, that we read the articles on my show, they're actually retiring to bigger houses. They're sizing up. It's sick. It's like insane. And so that becomes an issue too of like, you know, it used to be like you would have a house, the kids would move, you'd stay in it probably for another 10 or 20 years, and then you'd get a condo. And you'd go, I'm out.
Yeah.
Fuck do I want to mow lawn for?
Yeah.
Now the boomers are going, this is the only thing we have that makes us truly valuable in society, is that we own this like a McMansion. And we're not giving this up. We are tax-paying citizens, and we are not giving this up. And our kids are going to come here every year, and they're going to suffer through the size of our house with 9 empty bedrooms while they live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and we're gonna chastise them for their decisions and their choices.
And the McMansion defines you, and your car that you drive up to the
That's
McMansion
right.
in, all that defines you. Where are you vacationing?
That's right.
Where are you going?
That's right. And they're gonna go, because they all bought those houses for very little money, and they are going to hold them over everybody's houses until they are found dead in them. They will not leave those houses until they're taken out in an ambulance. The most important thing for the boomer is to be right. And that's their main thing. They're not a soulful group. They've been around forever, but they've attained very little wisdom. It's actually kind of impressive. They're the most American generation of people that have ever lived. They're deeply selfish, self-aggrandizing, paranoid, delusional. But one of the things that makes them right is what they have. They go, well, how can I be wrong? Look at this fucking house. Look where we're sitting. I've got 13-foot ceilings. Don't tell me you know about Gaza. You don't.